So I decided on starting with the Bulldog, as you can tell from the box in front of me. You have eyes, you should be able to tell. Well, you should, I don't want to say you have eyes. Well, everybody has, well, I know people that don't have eyes, or at least don't have one, but that's, doesn't really matter. But I'm assuming since you're watching a video that you have eyes and can see the Walker Bulldog in front of me. If not, and you're just listening to this, okay. I am just going to start with the Tamiya 135th Walker Bulldog. Now this is quite an older kit, but it is still produced and made, made, same thing. Very good, good job. So you can get it pretty easy, and like I said in the intro video, you can get this at Hobby Lobby any day of the week, except for days that they're closed or days that you can't go to Hobby Lobby, or online, or lots of places you can get this. Now it is an old kit. Tamiya first tooled this or this boxing I should say, was tooled in 1969. Now, so it is an old kit. Now they've updated parts. This boxing is the updated boxing from, I believe, 75. So, yes, it's an old kit, and that's one of the reasons it is cheap. Now, when you get to most cheap kits like this is $20 or under, there's usually, there's a few reasons why you have $20 kits. One, old kit, like this. It's still a good kit, but just old. Now you have some other kits that can get used, like the Bearcat, which was in the intro video, and there are other kits, like some Revell kits, that are cheap because they're just not very good. And you kind of have to do your due diligence when you're looking at getting a cheap kit to see if it's cheap because it's just old or cheap because it's not very good. For example, if you go to Hobby Lobby to look for this, you'll see a lot of Revell kits. You have their F18 or their F15, and you'll see that there's quite, especially for Revell, quite a wide margin in if the kits are good or not. One of the things I look for, especially for aircraft kits, not so much for armor because it's not a problem, go ahead and open this box though, is panel lines. Are they recessed or raised panel lines? And that can be, or that is one of the big determining factors for me because I don't like rescribing entire aircraft. But I've already taken everything out of the bags for this kit, and we'll go through and do some of the things that I normally do when I first pull a kit out and unbag all of the sprues and look at it and sort of inspect what we're going through. We'll put the directions to the side for a moment. We don't need them right now. So for the Bulldog, you'll have one sprue or tree, whatever you want to call this. Technically it's a runner. But you have the turret, upper and lower halves of the turret. You have the top deck or the upper hull for this, and then the lower hull. Now, despite this being a kit from really 69, the detail is pretty good. Some of the rivets are kind of large, but you can tell there's holes there and there's big recesses there and on the bottom, which you don't really need to worry about these unless you're going to display it upside down. But as you can tell, maybe from this, Tamiya has a lot of motorized kits, and this was one of them, and you can actually still find the motor kits and make this motorized. But I take everything out and I look to see for flash, short shots, damage. This has some damage on you see those two light marks where it's kind of been bent, but it's not really stressed too far. So look for damage, short shots, ejector pins, and it's ejector pins, not injector pins. It's where the machine ejects the sprue after molding, not where plastic runs into it. So ejector pin, not injector pin. For flash, sprue stubs, like on the side of this, there, and there are sprue gates, and those will need removes. That's the sort of thing I look for. Any major flash, again, problems, I don't see any. It's also good to just do a quick overview of surface detail to see what you're going to be working with. Again, some flash on parts like that. A two-piece barrel I'm not super excited with. And the other thing that I did notice, see, this has actually marked 1973 on the sprue here. One of the things I did, one of the things I did notice when I was pulling out the sprue, or pulling this out of the bag, not the sprue, that I already knew about because I built this kit a long time ago when I was little. I've never really been little, when I was younger. It does have a two-piece barrel, which isn't a problem, and again we'll go over how to deal with that. And the only other thing that I noticed and I don't like is the 50 cal on this is terrible. Hopefully you can see that, to where the way that they molded the barrel shroud on the actual body of the machine gun, it's raised detail. It looks like 4 big octopus suckers there, which yeah, no, I don't think so. And they only have them on the 2 sides. So I actually have a spare 50 from the Tamiya Easy 8 kit that they came out with recently, a couple of years ago, that I'll probably use in place of that if it's going to work. So again, if I know I'm going to be using another part, I'll check to see if the size is about the same and if it's worth using it. Size here, again, about the same. Much better detail on the newer one, obviously. So this will be used in place of this. One of the other things you can do is Asuka, or what used to be Tasca, sells 50 cal kits, and they are probably the best styrene 50 cals that you can get. You can buy those as separate kits for just the machine gun and use that to replace that, or just use the kit part, but there is some flash around the muzzle. So that sprue looks good. And then you have the road wheels. Everything looks good here. No problems that I can see. Very basic. Again, this kit, you can tell it's all the plastic now. It does have vinyl tracks. Normal styrene cement will not glue these. They're vinyl. Tamiya actually says to put them together and then melt the nubs down to hold it in place. And I generally will do that, and I will do that for these to show you guys. But I also like to put some super glue in there to help hold it. And then one of the other tricks to do is when you put it on the model, just make sure that that part, as long as you can get them mostly flat, is hidden under a road wheel. And then that way it's easier to, one, it's easier to hide it, and two, it gives you another point to glue on here to hold both ends down to minimize the chance of these popping off. Now, one of the other things you have to be careful of with any rubber band type track, like the vinyl, whether they're vinyl, the Dragon DS type, or the new Tamiya tracks, that you can use, excuse me, plastic cement on, is whether or not the vehicle you're doing has live tracks or not. Now, live tracks are ones that have tension on the tracks, like a Sherman, like the Bulldog, and you can tell by the pictures here, straight run, and it's nice for that. And you can see another picture here of an actual Bulldog where you can see a little bit of track sag, but not enough to worry about doing that with the model. And it's very hard to do good track sag with rubber band tracks because of the tension. And a lot of vehicles don't use live tracks, so they will have a lot of track sag, or some track sag, like German AFVs from World War II, Russian AFVs. But again, with those, you have to be concerned about doing too much track sag, which can be a problem. You also have the poly caps for the kit, which will go in the road wheels, the idler, and the drive sprocket, to make them movable. Now, you don't have to worry about plastic cement getting on these when you assemble it, because it won't stick to this. This is, again, vinyl. And then, of course, you have the kit decals. Now, one of the good things and bad things about older cheap kits is generally the decals are garbage. Now, in terms of this kit, since it is being produced still, the decals are going to be new-ish. Of course, the copyright's from 75. It does not mean that these were printed in 75. It means that this design was copyrighted by them in 75, so they've been using it since 75. But these are as fresh as you can get, really, from terms of a Tamiya boxing. And one of the things you do have to be careful of, which I was getting at before this long ramble, is a lot of Tamiya kits, especially with older decals. The decals either won't come off the paper, and I've had decals that sat in the water for an hour or more and it never slid off the backing paper, or you have some where they just disintegrate and fall apart. But we will use some of these decals, the numbers, the stars I do have stencils for, so I may use stencils and paint those, which would be good. But for the other markings, the numbers, the hull numbers, unit, and other markings, we'll probably end up using these decals. So that's the box. What's in it? Again, I overlook everything for flash. There's some flash there on the muzzle for the main gun. Look for flash, defects, issues that I know I'm going to run across later, like holes in the hull, big holes in the hull, and whether or not those will be an actual problem or just something that's going to be covered up as you build. One of the other things that's a lot of people don't know about Tamiya instructions, not all of them do this, some of them do, but oftentimes they don't. Now, of course, they don't have a sprue map on this, but the newer instructions do have a place where you can send off for replacement sprues, and they will list the different numbers or the different sprues that you have in the kit. Now, I don't see that on these instructions, but these are, again, old instructions. They've since changed this type. One of the other things you need to be worried about, especially with Tamiya instructions, is Tamiya has updated their paint range a lot since 1975. So when you look at this kit over, you'll notice that some of the things it says to paint gloss red, paint matte black, gunmetal, matte brown, they don't give you the XF numbers for the paints. They just give you, and even on the back, paint to be used, matte black, matte brown, gunmetal, olive drab, gloss red, silver. Now, some of the kits that came out after this where they're using XF or XF numbers will list older numbers, or will tell you to do a certain color mix. But Tamiya has since come out with some of those colors, so do some research, do some looking, and figure out if you do need to do a mix, or if Tamiya makes, again, those colors. So that's what I do, again, with any kit when I get out of the box. Look at it, look it over, see what things or problems there may be. Not every kit's going to have problems. This kit doesn't really have any that can't be fixed rather easily without much work, like the gaps in the hull. No flash really in any problems to speak of, and nothing that is not going to be overcome rather quickly. One of the other things that you will notice if you're going to get this kit is the grab handles on the hull. Each one has this little round bit that goes in these big hole dents really in the turret. Now, oftentimes, if it's just two holes like on some Dragon kits or other kits, you can just drill them out and use wire to replace it, and that's something I considered doing with this, but I don't think I will. Just keep it out and do it out of the box. Some other tricks we'll get into with painting in terms of doing the glass in the commander's cupola. But other than that, no real issues, no problems that jump out at you, and this is a good thing to do with, again, every kit, because it really shows you and gives you a good example of what to look for when you're doing the model. So what? Anyway, I'll get started on this, and we'll go along. I won't show you how to do everything because I'm going to assume that you are, I don't want to say skilled enough, but I'm going to assume you know well enough how to do some of the basic components, like gluing road wheels together. I will show you some of the tricks that I use. They're not really tricks, but some of the things I do to make dealing with sprue gates a little bit easier. So, thanks for watching. Next video on actually starting to build this thing should be out very, very soon. So, again, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you're going to enjoy this. Hope I'm going to enjoy it. Hope I'm going to finish it, but I don't want to say that too many times because I won't. And so, I'll catch you again soon.